The unexpected.
And the Kentucky coronation is complete.
That's a man's jam.
Against double order for the championship.
Do you believe it? The flipper still fits.
Five, step back, three for the tie.
Oh, the madness is real.
Ron Hunter has fallen off his stool.
Thank you for being my friend.
Hello, friends, and welcome to episode 3 of the Do You Want and Done pod. This is going to be a 30-second pod. We're not going to talk about anything else, just to say Purdue lost, and let's move on. We hope you have a great rest of your week. Take care. Good night.
Kentucky won. That's it.
I'm sorry. I was ending it at 30 seconds, so I didn't realize we were continuing to... Oh, we were just kidding, obviously. It's the D1 and Done pod presented by nobody, but we are sellouts, so we will absolutely take any corporate sponsorship or whatever bag you might happen to drop on our doorsteps. We are looking forward to any kind of partnerships that you may have down the road. Hey, make sure you find us on social media. We're either on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We are at D1 and Done Pod. You can also email the show. We are D1, the letters D, the number 1, and donepod at gmail.com. Make sure you leave us a like, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. Leave a review on our podcast pages, wherever you can find your podcast, and make sure you rate us 5 stars. Also, up front, before we jump into the show, shout-outs to our 5 new Twitter followers before we get started here today. Brian Haydad, Nathan Cinders, C3H8 King, doesn't have his name, but still got to give him a shout-out, Andrew Norwood, and Dylan Crimmins, all 5 of those wonderful
Rizzo.
gentlemen. Oh, my gosh. He's trying to eat the wings.
Not trying. He got a wing.
Did he got a wing?
He got a wing. For the people out there, we are recording at a new place today, Robby's house, and we have...
New studio control at my place, and my dog just jumped up on the counter and ate a wing. Unbelievable. You know, the disrespect that I'm showing in this household following my team's terrible defeat is unacceptable. Anyway, if this is your first time listening to the D1 and Done pod, welcome. We are obviously basically a Dusty Mills pod, and Nick and I just happen to be around and just enjoy the fun. By the way, I'm Robby Donahoe. To my left, Dusty Mills. To my right, Nick Mills. And Dusty played Division I college basketball at Kentucky and Ball State. Nick and I, we played basketball. We can either confirm or deny at any level of what that was, but we played basketball.
Well, if you listen to our first 2 podcasts, you know I have a varsity Letterman jacket. So would say I played at a high level.
I want to give Nick credit. Nick actually played in a sectional game. Robby did not.
So why would you even say that?
On this podcast...
That's probably the meanest thing you've ever said to me.
It's okay, Robby.
Because my junior year was because of concussions, and then my senior year, I didn't play that.
Tell this, Robby. I played 2 years of varsity basketball. The only game I never got in was the one section win in my life. That's the only game I never checked into the basketball game. So it all works out.
Fun. That's interesting. All right. It was a big week of college basketball, as you well know. If you are listening to this pod right now, you probably just got done watching Ohio State's big win over the Purdue Boilermakers. You could have seen that one in the stars coming from miles and miles away, as interim head coach Jake Diebler comes on and gets his first career win as coach of the Buckeyes. We will go through the coaching search from Ohio State in a little bit. But guys, I want to start first, before we jump into storylines, I want to start first with All-Star Weekend that was here in Indianapolis. I know we're a college basketball pod, but I want to first start with just how awesome it's been that the city of Indianapolis has really represented so well, and it's been amazing to see all the different celebrities and fans that have made their way over here to our wonderful city. We are based around Indianapolis, but, I mean, everyone knows. It seems like you almost have to believe it first before you actually can realize how great of a city Indianapolis is, and it's a great city for hosting these kinds of occasions and moments. Friday's Rising Stars and the Celebrity Game was awesome. Saturday was awesome with the dunk contest, three-point shooting contest, skills contest, and then obviously the All-Star Game on Sunday. But overall, Nick, you were downtown. What was it like being around all the festivities and fanfare of All-Star Weekend?
Yeah, so first of all, good afternoon, everyone.
Hello
Excited
there.
to be here.
We're here.
But yeah, I was downtown all weekend, so I'm not feeling A+ today, I think it's fair to say.
Why would that be?
We just, I stayed up late watching the film last night. I was crunching the numbers.
Good.
Had a good time.
That's what I was expecting.
And so, forewarning, I was not as locked into college basketball, but again, I'm a student of the game, so I went through the scores. I got all the data ready, but...
You're a researcher.
Researcher,
You
they say.
do your research before you make decisions.
I do my homework,
Yes.
some would say, Robby.
Right.
I say all that to say it was awesome downtown. Robby, it is a great hosting city because obviously the Super Bowl's here, was that 12 years ago now?
Didn't we have another one after that? Or was it really the one in 2008 when the Giants won? I thought we had another one after that.
It was the second.
No,
it was the second
yeah,
Giants.
it's the second time the Giants
Okay.
beat them.
But yeah, it's just a great hosting city, and let's say, like you said, like it's just so cool. Indianapolis being like on the limelight, and like again, everything's close together. Lucas Oil, Gamebridge are all next to each other, and just like the reason we say it's a good hosting city. So so I stay in my buddy's apartment. We did not walk outside to get to Gamebridge. Like you can take all these different routes, like through the mall and everything. Everything's close together. Obviously, Indianapolis cannot control the weather. That was a problem this weekend.
But that also goes to show you just how great of a city Indy is. Through cold and 2 to 3 inches of snow, everyone still had a great time.
It was awesome. It was so snowy Friday. It was Crab, you can probably get to you. He had troubles getting down there himself. And also, too, Indianapolis we get called Naptown. There's a lot of mean jokes about Indiana. If you watch Parks and Rec, basically the whole premise of the show is making fun of Indiana's Indiana.
Yep.
So it's just so great to get these opportunities. And because all of you guys heard this, in 49 states, it's just basketball, y'all.
But this here in Indiana.
This is Indiana.
By the way, you bring up Parks and Rec. Eagleton is definitely Carmel.
100%.
Eagleton is Carmel. If you've ever seen Parks and Rec, watch it. And if you've been around Carmel, Indiana, you will know exactly what we're talking about. Dusty, I want to get your thoughts about All-Star Weekend being in Indianapolis.
I think it's perfect. I think it's awesome. I think most sporting events should come to Indianapolis. They do host events so well. I say all the time, this is where I was born and raised. It's probably where I'll always live, to be honest. It's not my favorite city in the world. I'll be blunt about that. But especially when it comes to hosting events, Indy does it so well. And part of it is the proximity that everything is so close. So Nick brought up the weather. I came down Friday and I almost turned around at one point because we just got a snowstorm out of nowhere and it was horrible.
Yeah.
But once I got there, it was, I was there for 4 hours. We had a great time. And the city does such a good job of just hosting people and making events close and just having things going on. You could be at Lucas Oil or Gamebridge now is what it's called. The convention center, wherever you're at, it's just they do such a good job of putting events
Right, because a famous example of this is when the Super Bowl's in Dallas one year. Apparently, they spread everything out from Arlington to Fort Worth to Dallas, and it's just a mess to get everywhere. So it's just perfect for.
Remember, I think I mentioned that
this.
I went to the Final Four by myself back in.
Oh, that's right. When Florida was there,
Yeah, when Florida, Kentucky, when UConn won it.
Yeah.
And it was a 45-minute drive to every destination.
That's awful. And I've learned that going to other. So from bouncing around to a couple different college bowl games when I was covering college football, the college bowl games are usually in NFL stadiums. And one of my least favorite was Tampa, when the Outback Bowl. That stadium's near nothing. And it's terrible. Charlotte Stadium is downtown, which is really nice, but I don't think people understand the aspect of building these new stadiums. You're taking up all this new land and area, but you're taking it away from the downtown of the area.
Well, now the new big one would be what FIFA's doing with the World Cup when it's here and having the World Cup finals at the Giants and Jets
in New
Stadium
Jersey, which was a terrible choice.
That's where it's
awful
at?
choice.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they just
World
announced a
Cup
couple
final is
weeks
going to be at
ago.
MetLife Stadium.
Yep.
Can you believe that?
Which one already has, they're claiming they're going to put real grass in.
They will.
The
They
final.
have to follow
But,
FIFA
yeah,
regulations. Yes.
You're having an issue with the stadium that's already having ACL issues and Achilles issues, and now you're going to take it in the middle of nowhere. And the people coming from internationally are going to be like, where the hell is this place?
Yeah, it's
because they're expecting to see New York City,
Right.
And it's not.
And it's
Jersey.
And it's East Rutherford, New Jersey.
It's Jersey.
And then just one more thing on the Indian hosting, it was just so cool, like that Halliburton got highlighted, guys like Reggie Miller,
yeah.
the high school game, the movie Hoosiers got referenced a lot. So it was just so cool to watch Indiana get celebrated like this for basketball for a weekend.
It could not have come at a more perfect time with the kind of the ascension and the rise of the Pacers in general.
Absolutely.
So everyone got to see.
Right, because we were talking about this happened 3 years ago with they were kind of in no man's land. It just
They still would have done a great job, but it would not have had the same impact. And now with the Pacers starting to build a franchise, there's more recruiting in the NBA now than there really ever has been.
So I was talking about this last night. So my wife and I were over watching one of friends, Nate Hahn, who listens to the show.
Shout out, Nate.
No free ads.
And his wife, Megan, who was my cousin, actually. And I was telling him this is the perfect time for the Pacers to have this platform, to have a fun all-star game, to win the skills competition last time, to have Halliburton, who's so likable, and then even Miles Turner, who can get more likable for the Pacers fans. I'm a fan of
Off
Miles,
the
by
court,
the way.
though, awesome guy.
Yes.
So
Oh, yeah. Lego collections for days. I would love to have him on the show.
Yeah.
But they just had this cohesive unit. You talk about recruiting. I mean, fun city, fun set of young personnel. This is the perfect time for them to have just this platform.
Yeah.
Yeah, completely agree. And that's also a big shout out to Indy Sports Corporation, Pacer Sports and Entertainment, everyone who's involved in everything that goes on downtown. They've done a phenomenal job for months planning and getting this stuff ready.
And
I was going to say, or maybe you're going to say this, planning it after it got canceled because of COVID.
That's right.
So
yeah.
they had to redo
Very
everything.
challenging, yes. So that's a whole nother layer of this. So shout out to everyone involved in the planning, the aspects of everything with All-Star Weekend.
And just one more thing about like planning and changing. Remember, this city or state had to host a 21 NCAA tournament from start to finish.
That's right.
So like just coordinating all that, so it just delivers time and time again.
It's definitely a source of pride for all three of us as we're so close and so interwoven into athletics in the state of Indiana. So it's been really cool to see kind of the city and the state once again shine in that spotlight. So been a great All-Star weekend, and we definitely look forward to seeing more events come to this, to Indianapolis. Before we jump into bigger storylines, obviously the big storyline as we're jumping into this pod is Ohio State beating Purdue 73-69. Wouldn't say it was a surprise per se. I thought Ohio State played very well. Purdue, I don't think they played great. It was that 9-point stretch that Jamison Battle had where he had back-to-back threes that kind of sunk Purdue. Boilermakers did make a comeback in the second half that they were able to be right there, and then Bruce Thornton hit a clutch shot down the stretch, so did Jamison Battle. So Buckeyes halt the Purdue 9-game win streak, and that's a big win for Ohio State. They're still not really in the tournament picture, but what I want to start with, guys, is the hot board for Chris Holtmann. Obviously, the big story of the week, I would argue, is Chris Holtmann no longer the head coach at Ohio State.
Just real quick on Ohio State Purdue real quick. It's kind of like the theme of the season, right? Just another top 10 team losing on the road to an unranked team.
We gave you that stat last week, and sure enough, it comes to fruition.
And Purdue's 23-3 now, and their 3 losses, as you know, are like...
all road losses to unranked teams, and they got court-stormed at all 3.
Right. So it's just kind of like, we've seen this before already, but like you said, the story of college basketball, like says Chris Holtmann getting fired on Wednesday. I did not think this was going to happen middle of the season.
Not middle of the season, no. And especially within an athletic director change, I was very surprised by that as well. The current AD is Gene Smith. Ross Bjork will be coming in July, I believe, to relieve Gene Smith as he retires and leaves Ohio State. But Gene Smith said, quote, "This team needed different leadership." And obviously, I mean, I've been saying it all year. Ohio State has the talent. There's no question about it. And
had it last year too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And showed today.
And that's, I don't know if this is an indictment on Chris Holtmann or just the energy around, a new change of leadership. But this shows that Ohio State has the horses to be a good basketball team. Bruce Thornton's a great guard. Jamison Battle is one of the best shooters in the country. You've got a really good player in Roddy Gale, some big guys inside that can play too. But I just want to run through Chris Holtmann's resume when he was at Ohio State. And I remember when you arrived here, Nick, you said Chris Holtmann was there at Ohio State for 7 years. Yes, he was there for 7 years. Now, he was 137 and 85 in his 7 years. That's okay. Maybe the bigger indictment, 67 and 64 in the Big Ten. Not great. He also got a $14 million buyout from his contract, which I don't understand. At this point for Ohio State, you're not making the tournament. You might as well just let him play it out and see what you can do at that point.
That's the part I was going to say is something has to be going on internally if you're going to make this decision on February when they announced that.
I think Valentine's
was all
Day.
It was Valentine's Day. It was February 14th. Usually that coincides with someone saying, hey, I'll write the check. You can do it now.
Yeah.
Which is kind of what happened with Jimbo Fisher at Texas A&M.
And I think you cannot overstate the fact that the AD is leaving. So I think he wanted to make sure he fired him, and he's going to make – this is going to be his last decision he makes.
Yeah, this is going to be the last one.
That's probably why they want to do it sooner rather than later.
It is a little bit surprising that Chris Holtmann did last as long as he did because he never got past the round of 32 in his 7 years at Ohio State.
So, yeah, made the tournament all for 5. He would have made in 2020. They're projected to be like a 5 seed, but would have made the tournament all for – but, yeah, never got out of the first.
They've had some they've had NBA players throughout. Keita Bates-Diop in 17 with Jay-Sean Tate. He's now playing in the NBA. Did you know Jaden Ledee was at Ohio State?
Yeah.
I did not know that he transferred from Ohio State to San Diego State. Did not know that. Dwayne Washington, Caleb Wesson. The 2020 team started the downfall. That was when they lost to Oral Roberts.
Yeah, that's the defining loss right there.
That team had E.J. Liddell, Dwayne Washington, Justin Suing. They were really good, but they lost 4 straight to end the regular season and then went on a Big Ten tourney run. They lost to Villanova in 21. Obviously, didn't make the tournament in 22, and then fired in 2023.
And real quick, you mentioned NBA guys. You mentioned Bryce Sensabaugh last year.
Sensabaugh was another one.
Miles Brennan was the other one.
Malachi Branham, who's now with the Spurs, who I think is going to be a really good player in the NBA. He's now with the Spurs. But the timing was off and weird, and I think that's where it comes into, obviously someone put out a $14 million check that Ohio State could use, and hopefully it doesn't bounce, but Ohio State's got the money. But I've been surprised.
It was Robby.
It's not me. I'm surprised at some of the names that have been coming out as rumored candidates to be head coach at Ohio State, because Ohio State is not a bridge job. It's, in my opinion, I believe it's a destination job with the resources and facilities and what they have at their disposal. Now, in terms of maybe results they've had in the past, maybe they're not at the level of North Carolina, Duke, Kentucky,
thanks Robby,
Villanova, teams like that. But they've made Final Fours in the last 25 years. They were national runners up in 2007, and no, they were in 2012. That was the team that lost to Kansas with Sullinger. But like names like Greg McDermott, Mick Cronin, Sean Miller, these are the names that they've got on their hot board. I am shocked. Like they're not trying to go get a big time name that's I guess more of an up and coming coach that's had success.
McDermott's mine.
I think that's a terrible move.
And the reason I say, and again, I don't know him personally, so I could be wrong on this, but I think everyone assumed that once his son went to the NBA, that was his success. He's continued to make it even better, creating what they've done.
Yeah, sure.
At some point, he has to look at that job and be like, how long can I make a great Creighton? So a job like this would be perfect to go.
No, the guy.
That's what I'm saying. Is like it's great for the coach. Is it great for Ohio State?
See, I guess
I would argue they could do better than that.
But that's what I'm saying, though, is for him to prove what he can do at Creighton after his son leaves.
Sure, yes.
Clearly he knows what the hell he's doing.
Right.
Sorry, go ahead, Nick.
Just the point I was going to make is you're talking about like who they're going to go get. I think I just make this point too because I think it ties into both things. Like Louisville and IU are probably both going to be open too. So I think there's going to be a big competition for a lot of these. Okay, IU, I'd assume Louisville's is going to be open. IU, my point being, there's going to be a lot of competition for a lot of these big name coaches. So that's why like you start trying to get a big name coach. Like, so you're like are not into the idea of like Sean Miller or McDermott. Like who's like your guy?
I don't think like a retread hire or a guy that's been a mainstay at his school makes no sense to go from where he is right now to Ohio State. It's an up and coming young big name.
Okay, so
that I would lean towards, like a Dusty May, like a Lamont Paris, like a Wes Miller.
I was going to bring up Lamont and Dusty May.
Okay.
If you're told right now, 2024, with everything going on, Louisville, IU, Ohio State, pick one. Where do you want to now make this? Hey, you're going to.
Where do I want to go?
Yeah.
Like between the three? Oh, I'm picking Ohio State.
Okay, that's
because
I think I'd pick Louisville, but there's such a mess with everything going on. I'm not sure that is still the best. But like historically, Louisville's one of the best 5 to 6 programs, or maybe not that, but still it is.
I mean, they're a top 10 program.
Top 10 for sure. Let's just leave it there.
I think do
that debate later.
The expectations at Ohio State are more attainable than what you're going to see at IU and Louisville. Now, IU and Louisville may drop a much bigger bag to get you to come there, but I would choose Ohio State over Louisville, IU every single time from what you are getting in return in the position that it puts you in. So let me run through some other names real quick that are also rumored. So Wes Miller, the Cincinnati head coach, currently has the best odds to be the next Ohio State coach. I think that would be a good hire. Sean Miller's at plus 700. I don't get that whatsoever. Dusty May's at plus 1,000. And then my guy, I think Lamont Paris would be the best choice. And it's funny that right after I said, I think it was earlier this week, where I said Lamont Paris, he's from Findlay, Ohio. He played at Worcester College, which is in Ohio. Funny that yesterday his South Carolina team loses at home to LSU. Really bad loss. Can we draw any parallels to maybe making that connection of?
I had not thought about that.
Some things
you mean like not focused and conversations are being had?
So maybe the players are hearing about it, so maybe they're not as.
Let me bring this up to you because I think you can speak from experience on this as well. Is do the rumors of coaches leaving, does that affect how players play in college?
Players, I don't.
Okay.
Especially at that age level, I don't think they care.
Okay.
I don't think they have a. Again, I'm talking 13, 14 years out, so maybe the next generation is a little more enclosed on it. But I would
Kids
say no.
these days.
Yeah, really, seriously, could be in my age. But I would say no, because I think in the end, I think the assistant coaches honestly have more of an impact on if you think one of them is leaving, if you have a relationship. That's more important than the head coach. But I could see a head coach and it topping from the, coming down from the top, being like, okay, he's not really focused this week. We hear these rumors. Now, coach, so the three of us being the assistants, the three of us, one of us isn't locked in because we can't get information. That could topple down to players from my knowledge.
Well, I have a question. What if reporters were asking all week? Do you think that could be?
No, I don't know.
Yeah.
If you're just getting hounded about it every day, do you think maybe that would make it affect at all?
I truly don't. Again, maybe I'm in the minority where I was always like, if I got asked questions I thought were stupid, it wouldn't change how I'd practice that week or play, or would it not? Maybe it could, and maybe it's an excuse to not go all in for your next game. But there definitely looks like there could be a correlation, something like that.
That's what I'm curious if there was
smoked
anything
on Wednesday too for people who didn't see.
Oh
Yeah,
my
lost by
gosh,
40.
Auburn beat him by 40.
Yeah.
Which again, that's another thing we're going to talk about here. In
I have
moments.
one more question to I'm not even saying you're wrong per se. It's why are you so pumped about Lamont Paris, who has only one great year at South Carolina so far, but Greg McDermott, you're like, heck no.
There's something about Ohio State that
they're Creighton top 4 in the Big East every year.
I'm not discounting the success that he's had at Creighton, but I think Ohio State is the kind of program that you need the young, up-and-coming, sexy hire. Greg McDermott does not fit that at all for me. Now, is he a good basketball coach? There's no question, because he continues to have success at Creighton. But I'm not sure how he would fit in with what Ohio State and their brand is.
Okay.
As someone who used to be an Ohio State fan back in the day, it feels like an odd fit.
Sorry, I was giggling on the side because Greg I can't even say it right now. I am a fan of him, and I've heard him at press conferences. He's funny, but he would probably agree with you when you talk about young and sexy. That's not him. So it's just...
No, it's definitely not him.
Yeah, no.
Handsome fella, just not.
But, McDermott, I'm here for you to get the Ohio State job if you want it.
Now, here's the other name that a lot of Buckeye boosters are pushing for that I don't know if he's even attainable, Jay Wright.
Yeah, that's what everyone's dream coach is right now.
And I will say, I think Ohio State checks a lot of the boxes that Jay Wright could come back to, but I just don't know if Jay Wright has any interest in going back into college coaching, and I would guess probably not.
No, there's always the ridiculous Kentucky fans who throw that out there too. I say all that to say, I don't think there's any chance he's coming back to college basketball.
I think Brad Stevens is going to be in the coach.
Oh, no, can we play that game that we brought up a couple weeks ago? Who's our funniest Ohio State hire right now? Because I have one.
Urban Meyer.
I thought about that as we were driving here.
That would be funny.
Funniest. Thad Matta would be kind of funny.
Thad Matta would be pretty funny.
Archie?
Archie Miller? Yeah. Oh, my gosh.
Ohio ties.
He's not doing great at Rhode Island right now.
Oh, actually, that's yours. Anthony Grant, is that name being thrown
Anthony
around?
Grant's a name that's being thrown out there, and that's
He's doing good at Dayton.
Ohio, and that's why it's interesting to see the hot board and names that are popping up. A lot of them have Ohio connections because a lot of to recruit this, Ohio's a really good basketball state. I don't know if people realize it, and there's a lot of
basketball and football.
Yeah, basketball and football. But in terms of the college programs in the state of Ohio, Dayton's having a great year. Anthony Grant, that would make sense. But again, another kind of retread because he didn't really do great at Alabama.
No,
he did good at VCU and obviously couldn't make that jump. And that's why those are the kinds of names that I don't really understand why you're going to go for a retread when you can go out and get someone who has shown that he's an up-and-coming coach. I think that fits to more of what Ohio State is. That's just my opinion.
Fair enough.
But there's another name on there that a lot of people are trying to push as well, is Will Wade.
When you said VCU, that popped in my head. It's Will Wade.
Honestly, Will Wade would fit really well, I think. Especially fit with Ross Bjork being the AD.
It would.
That makes a lot of sense.
Well, that's another thing. Ross Bjork, I'm not sure if he's in charge of it, but he's known for getting the big name hire. That's his MO. So, like you said, McDermott would not fit that bill either.
So
I'm going to get crapped on for saying this. Anyone can read between the lines if you want to. But when I think of Will Wade, I think of Louisville. We'll just leave it at that.
It doesn't make a lot of sense, too.
There's a reason Ross can call him an American gangster.
Yeah.
Because he's
So,
Will Wade to Louisville.
so
Make a lot
you
of
want to hear
sense,
my
too.
funny one that I think could be Ohio State's next coach? I'll just simply say, quiet. Coach K's board retirement. Gets a nice little paycheck.
The Ohio State University.
So I will make that connection for you. It's Bob Knight is one of Coach K's proteges. Bob Knight played at Ohio State. So what if Coach K comes back and takes over Coach Knight's alma mater in his honor?
It's a full circle.
Maybe.
Which, by the way, another guy with those connections, Chris Mack. Is he? Now he's in Ohio State. Is he going to come back to college basketball? I just thought of him.
And I thought he got too quick of a hook at Louisville.
Same.
I still think he's a pretty good coach because he did very well at Xavier.
He got him as a 1 seed one year.
Yeah, he did. So again, that feels like a retread, but I think that's more believable than some of the other ones that are out there.
I still think a big name, and unless it's like a Brad Stevens thing where I've been on this pod and said, to my knowledge and people that I've spoken to, Brad Stevens is never coming back to college basketball. But the name I would throw out again that we played a couple weeks ago is still Billy Donovan.
Does he have any desire to come back to college?
Yeah,
Hey, those Bulls are playing well the last couple of weeks, Crab.
they're going to be in that plan.
I think with where in the direction that college sports and college basketball in general is going with recruiting and NIL, I think coaches
like what he want to. I don't
think
know.
I don't think so. I really don't. Now that again, Ohio State makes sense. So that's there's a lot of names I could see that could do really well at Ohio State. I don't. If they settle for like a Greg McDermott, I think that kind of fits in the Chris Holtmann area of he's a good coach and he can win games, but is he really going to take the program to where it has the ability to get to? So
Is it just because Creighton has too many white guys for you?
No,
You just don't want
it's
Ohio
not
State?
at all.
It is for me.
It does not. It's not a good fit.
You don't want the Ryan Kalkbrenner types running around.
It's just not a good fit, I think. All right, so we'll keep an eye on the hot board for Ohio State. I don't think Jake Diebler would have a chance to get the job now. He certainly earned that win today, had a good scouting report against Purdue, which we're going to talk about that a little bit later in the show, the blueprint to beat Purdue, because I think Minnesota has potentially shown some wrinkles that could throw Purdue into a tough spot going forward. But anyway, Dusty, your said and done storyline for this week.
I had 3.
Okay.
It's storyline, Crab. I don't know if you know that.
Okay, well, the one I'm going to focus on is actually because we just spent 10 minutes probably talking about Ohio State and figuring out a coach and who to bring in and these great names and whatnot. So I have a public service announcement to the Kentucky basketball fan base. Last week, remember I came on the pod after a wedding, so I didn't really see much of the Gonzaga game. I saw the first half. Second half, I saw the final score. Mm-hmm. And then I said on the podcast they would go 2-0 this week.
You want me to play that sound?
Yeah, feel free.
Honestly, you know what? That could be
Auburn, for people, they got smoked at Florida yesterday.
Florida beat the brakes off of them.
Kentucky's going to go 2-0 this week. It's just one of those years.
I will. This is that Kentucky at Auburn game feels like a game where Kentucky just shows up and finds a way to win.
That's my point. And I said that with an eye roll. Like, it's not like I'm being cocky.
No, maybe them away from home is actually what
they could definitely win that game.
That was AI generated.
Applause for Dusty on that.
So last night, watching that game and watching this team once again showing how good they can be, and admittedly last week I was, for the first time ever, kind of on the, Cal's making me nervous. Said he needed to win in March. They break the doors off Auburn yesterday. Never squandered the lead, led the entire game from start to finish. And afterwards, he walks in and does the most Cal thing. This is why I've loved him since UMass. And Carmelo Travieso, Marcus Camby, that team that went to the Final Four and actually lost to Kentucky. I actually had a UMass T-shirt in elementary school because I loved that team so much. I've always loved John Calipari. And he walks in with so much swagger last night and yells at the media and says, "Yell at me, don't yell at the kids." And then he was getting crapped on.
Getting crapped on, yeah.
On Twitter. And by
I have that soundbite too, by the way. You want to listen to that as well?
Play it real quick.
So this is John Calipari. As we mentioned, he kind of came after the media after the win over Auburn.
We have some people here that are there for a reason. We're going to make this out to be... Please just lead my players, let them be young and learn, and keep attacking me. I may be the worst in the country. Just attack me and leave these kids alone, okay? Thank you. And yes.
So what I'll say is I saw big Kentucky media names last night that I will not call out at the moment.
If you know, you know.
Yeah. Also ripping on him for that. And then, you know,
I think that comes from the Nick Saban playbook right there, too.
Okay.
That's a great call.
Get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
That is my man right there. That is I defend John Calipari every year when Kentucky fans get mad about him. Who the hell do you want? I don't comprehend it. I don't get it. He is the man, and that's if I'm a player. That's if you walk in and you're like, okay, go be a 19-year-old and go just.
If my coach did that, I'm like, that's my coach. I'm playing for him.
That's my guy.
Can I just say, address the elephant in the room? Because I was very tough on Calipari last week. I said that's why I was hesitant because I think I said this last episode. That was the first time, because every year it's like
and
Cal,
that was the first time I was on the fence.
That's the first time I was ever like, wait a minute, maybe someone onto something. So yeah, I was very critical last week, but I think I did say I would not fire him, and I still think what I said was true. Like, it was not the end of the world last week, but also this week. Everything's not solved going forward. That being said,
no, it's not. It's not.
That being said, awesome. They gave up 122 points this week, which if you told me
usually that happens in one game when they play.
If you told me Auburn, no, seriously, if you told me Auburn scored 122, I'd be like, that's not impossible against this team. So it's just their defense was so great this week. So shout Calipari. I was very critical, and they were awesome.
And the
this
last
week.
thing I want to say, I'm going to get this off my chest, and I defend the Kentucky fan base. I appreciate the passion. I appreciate all of it. But yesterday was the epitome that, to me, a lot of those fans are rooting for Calipari to fail just by reading stuff. And again, that could be the minority of the fan base, but the people that are outspoken about it, it is frustrating to watch. Have so much freaking fun with a guy who's going to bring in all this talent and may have some failures, right? But I am so back and just so excited about this team going forward.
You can't be anything but encouraged after that win over Auburn. Like that was
awesome.
Quintessential Kentucky showing up and being like, screw the haters, we're going to go win this game.
They're saying like, well, Auburn didn't play well. That's part of the thing. When teams play bad, you take advantage of it, and they led from start to finish.
And that was the question I wanted to ask both of you. Was that win a product of Kentucky's defense taking a big step, or was it a product of Auburn kind of just not playing very well offensively?
I think the story is Kentucky, so I would answer Kentucky, but also I don't think you cannot, like, Auburn's a big equation in this too. Because this is the second straight game now after Gonzaga thrashed them to pick and roll. Ole Miss, no Auburn attacked the pick and roll that much at all. So I do think there's a little criticism of Auburn here. And by the way, they've lost some big games all of a sudden. I don't know how many quad wins they have.
They have I think 2 quad 1 wins if I'm not mistaken. I'll pull up the resume, but it's not many.
But you see, I think most credit goes to Kentucky, but I don't think like Auburn has. They did some weird things.
I think
too.
it goes into the whole, the argument people always have: did one team win or did one team lose it? I think there's something to be said that Kentucky went into a raucous environment. College game day was there. That place is not easy to play in. My story that I'm going to tell you from my Kentucky days is actually from being at Auburn. Just perfect timing. So I personally give Kentucky the credit. Again, I think it starts from the very top where Calipari, when he wants to show his swagger, he shows it. And from what I know about him, he came in this week and was like, boys, let's shut everyone up. So to me, it's full-blown credit to Kentucky because I can assure you there's probably no one in the country, and to me the two best teams are UConn and Purdue, that want to go play at Auburn, especially on Saturday night.
Yeah.
And remember, we mentioned earlier, they beat the brakes off South Carolina just on Wednesday night in that same arena.
Auburn is 2-5 in quad one games this year.
Yeah.
2-5.
We're in the middle of February now. Like, you've had plenty of opportunities.
We're thinking about giving a top 4 seed to a team that has 2 quad 1 wins and
I'm guessing those 2 wins are at home and the 5 are probably on the road.
I think
South Carolina
Alabama.
and Alabama. Those that's it.
Yeah. So yeah, I think again the story is Kentucky, but Auburn now it's like how can anyone trust them at this point? And Katie Johnson's a maniac. I think Bruce Pearl would even say it. I think
he is a roller coaster of disaster and excitement, all roped into one. So, I mean, Kentucky absolutely deserves all the credit, and I will completely agree with you, Dusty. Is Calipari that team came to play on Saturday, and that's the first time I think I've seen Kentucky play as well as they have probably since November in the non-conference.
It felt like the North Carolina game.
I was about to reference the North Carolina game. They looked like that team.
It felt like the team that was going to go in the COVID in-state tournament that I thought was very good. It reminded me of the 2015 team and just reminded me of back when Cal had the great line saying, scared money, you don't make no money. I used to have a shirt that said that. I cannot find it. I'm guessing my brother Jake stole
You
it.
need to pay money for that shirt.
Yeah.
Do you still have your UK 2K shirt?
I don't know if I ever got one.
You didn't get one?
I had one, yeah.
Okay.
think I
I
still
always
have it.
thought that was really
It was
cool.
so great.
First team in 2000 wins. That was always
But
really
again,
cool to me.
playing with that confidence and that swagger, and that's how he gets those guys to the league. They just were a different team, and I loved it.
Just one last note, Kentucky. This shows just how like up and down they've been. We've had 3 like completely different stories about Kentucky in our 3 podcasts.
3 episodes, 3 different storylines on Kentucky. I know you got other storylines, but I want to keep it to your main one to start.
Okay.
So I'm going to switch gears to Nick. Nick, your said and done storyline for this week.
I think this is where my theme is 1 seed, but really it's UConn because we're 3 episodes in and we've really not talked about Connecticut.
We haven't talked about UConn at all.
So
really,
I just want to shout to them. So again, we're Kentucky fans. I don't know how you feel about UConn. I'm not
big difference.
Yeah, I'm not a big UConn person at all. I've seen them lose in the tournament all the time. That being said, they dominated the NCAA tournament last year. They are, with Purdue losing today, probably the number 1 team in the country going forward. And they have the chance to be the first team to go back-to-back since 06-07 Florida. And I just want to shout out UConn real quick on this. So 91-92 Duke go back-to-back. They bring back 4 of their 5 starters. Like the 5th guy starts 92, he started 11 games year before. So essentially,
Brandon, yeah.
Basically all 5
the
guys.
same team, yeah.
Florida, all 5 starters come back from 06-07. UConn loses their top 2 leading scorers from last year, Sunogo and
Jordan Hawkins.
And their 6th leading scorer, Andre Jackson, first-round picks the Bucks. So he's still 3 of their best players. And here they are again, middle of February, the best team in the country. They smoked my Marquette Golden Eagles yesterday.
Beat them to shreds.
So just, again, I was out and about. So we left my buddy's apartment. It was 16-16. We get to where we're at. Turn on the TV. It's 44-26. So it just turned on a dime. UConn's really good again, and that does not make me too
So
happy.
there were my storylines. All I'm going to say, and I say this in the nicest way possible, you were talking about the villain of the college basketball being Purdue last week. Cam Spencer is the ultimate villain.
I do not like him.
He plays with so much swagger, so much arrogance. This is a guy who started at Loyola, Maryland, then went to Rutgers, and now at UConn.
And I did not like him at Rutgers.
No.
He made a big shot against Purdue last year.
He had
in Mackey.
moments yesterday when they were up 30 that he basically was giving the middle finger to everyone. And, I mean, God bless to him. And I am someone who will say as well, I have never liked UConn because they always win as a 10 seed. Or, technically 8
They
or 9.
have made the
but-
Final Four 6 times and have 5 national championships. That is
it's
insane.
ridiculous.
And that was so they started that in 99.
99.
They really didn't have a
And
program.
there was no level. I
before
remember
that.
watching the game with my parents in their living room. They upset Duke in the championship. It was like, oh my God, University of Connecticut, this is awesome. This is such a cute story. And 25 years later, I hate them.
Now they're tied for 3rd, I believe, for most national championships, just like that.
That's crazy. Yeah,
I hate Gino because of the men's program. It just kind of correlates. Just all of Connecticut
Kevin
out here.
Ali comes in for 4 years and just wins a natty. And they
Yeah,
crazy.
and like
It's
to ring
just-
off town.
It's crazy.
Quick trivia. Was the one year they made a Final Four and didn't win it? Anyone have it?
Was 99 their first one?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, they've made 6 Final Fours. And won
It was 2009. It was the Stanley
Boom.
Robinson team that lost to Michigan State,
Hashim
wasn't
the
it?
Beat.
Wow.
Get it to the beat.
So yeah, I just want to shout out UConn. We've not really mentioned them yet, so I just want to
They're
make
the
sure.
best. They're the best in the country.
After this loss today by Purdue, they are without a doubt the number 1 overall seed.
And then-
There's no question in my mind they're the best team in the
And I'll
country.
make this super quick. I think the other big storyline in college basketball right now, I think 3 1 seeds are locked in right now. Those 2 in Houston.
Yeah.
And I think the other storyline is who's the 4th 1 seed. They announced Zona.
Wait, you say Houston is a lock and not North Carolina?
No one has UNC as a 1 seed right now at all.
Really?
Yeah. So basically, everything I've
Yeah,
checked,
the Syracuse loss was not great. so
Georgia
that didn't
Tech's
help.
in there now too. They've stacked losses all of a sudden.
They've stacked a couple bad losses.
So yeah, basically, so there's 3 locked in, and then I'm sure we'll get to the committee released theirs. They had Arizona as the 4th 1 seed.
We'll talk about that
There's
in a
like
moment,
8 teams that could be that last 1 seed right now. It's Arizona, Marquette, Tennessee, North Carolina, Kansas, Iowa State. So it's up for grabs right
Iowa
now.
State is sneaky.
Nobody knows about them.
We're gonna
I have some
get
things
to
on Iowa State.
we're gonna
I
get to-
love Iowa State.
We're gonna get to Iowa State here in a second. So those are our said and done storylines. We've got so many sidelines from the
I have
week.
one more to say. I was going to go off on this. I'm just going to say it real quick. Wisconsin, get the hell out of here. I never believe in you. You got me to slide believe in you this year. Lose the damn number, Wisconsin. They are not good. They're never good. They want to football and basketball. They want to show that they're good. I'm sick of them. I'm
done with Wisconsin.
Hands up, if we would start this podcast like 2 months ago, I've been all over. I love them. I loved AJ Store. I thought it was like
AJ Store playing so well. Max
thought it was
Klesmit hitting big shots.
I thought it was like Dalton Connect going to Tennessee. Everyone plays defense, and you just scored. And boy, is that
Fox, get off it.
They're showing.
So we're watching halftime right now on Fox Sports 1, and they go to break with a bump that says Purdue in peril. Kindly F off, Fox.
Is the panic
Get
meter
out of here.
Panic meter at 10?
No!
Wait.
It's like at a 5 or a 6 right now.
Can we clip that Robby saying, get out of here, Fox?
Yeah, we need to get that. And also, since they Purdue and peril, the last thing on Wisconsin, I'll just saw this. Wisconsin is whack. That's what I'll say about them.
Wisconsin,
We'll just leave it that way.
My thing on Wisconsin is they're called the Badgers, not the Goodgers. They've lost 5 of 6.
Shut up.
All right.
Next topic.
So the top 16 teams for March Madness. The NCAA Selection Committee came out with their bracket review of the top 16 teams. Anything on there that is surprising for anyone right now?
Well, and real quick, just for those who don't know, this is the actual committee.
Correct. This isn't like together. This isn't a bracketology here thing. So I'll read the top 16 for you. So this came out yesterday. So this was Saturday. So this came out prior to Purdue losing to Ohio State. So Purdue was the number 1 overall seed. UConn number 2. Houston 3. Arizona 4. North Carolina 5. Tennessee at 6. Marquette at 7. Who's at 8? Kansas is at 8. Alabama's at 9. Baylor's at 10. Iowa State 11. Duke 12. Auburn 13. San Diego State 14. Illinois 15. And Wisconsin 16. We obviously know that you don't like Wisconsin, so Wisconsin at 16 is
they should be
completely
160th.
Yeah, I had 3 major takeaways real quick. I already mentioned who's going to be the last 1 seed. They had Arizona on that.
Which I think they have the profile, and they passed the eye test. There's just something about them that they could lose to a 16.
They're hammering a bad conference. I mean, I think
Well, that's the thing. They have a little of what like Purdue and like who else? UNC have. They have some just weird losses. Like at Oregon State, they lost. They got like 40 ball at Stanford.
They go through some spells where they just seem disinterested in playing, and I don't understand why. Because when Purdue played them in Indianapolis, like Caleb Love was hitting shots from everywhere. Keshad Johnson is a monster. Like they have the horses and the names to be a number 1 seed, but there's something about them that just rubs me the wrong way. I'm like, I don't know if this team can really make a run.
Well, also think it's Tommy. This is year 3 Arizona. They've been like a 1 or 2 seed every year.
Year.
But again, they just go out like suckers every year in the tournament. Houston smoked them 2 years ago.
Princeton beat them last year.
Yes. So they're like kind of what Purdue. Like they just have some weird just.
I mean, that Arizona team last year was Zuzu Tubelis. Like that, they had no business losing to Princeton. Like that was a talented.
Well,
Arizona
last year
team.
they lost at home to Arizona State and Washington State. Like they just have these weird
losses.
blips.
Okay, this is where I think it might be a culture thing too. So think about the year when they lost to Buffalo in the first round. That was 2018.
That Buffalo team, they were some ballers. Yeah. They were fun to watch.
Not the Bills for those listening.
Correct. The Bulls.
The pride of the MAC at the time. But what Arizona's weird about, and it's every single year, it's been like this since they won their title in '98, is they get upset in these games, and they seem like they just don't care afterwards. Yeah, they just walk off, they smile like, oh, great regular season, like, whatever. 3 of us are going to go to the NBA and get paid, which is good for them. That's awesome.
By the way, that 18, that was a sneak peek of DeAndre Ayton's career. Like,
yes,
actually.
yeah.
Like,
but that's like that was Sean Miller's teams. It was they've got talent. They're going to get to like usually the Sweet 16 Elite 8, and then they're going to lose in a preposterous way that made no sense.
Or remember those 2 straight years they lost to Wisconsin Elite 8?
Yes.
Just back-to-back years lost to Wisconsin. So random.
Wild.
And then my other takeaway was, speaking of Wisconsin, I could not believe in their top 4 or the top 16. That even before
just on resume alone, I guess that's why they're in there. But there's no way in the world that they're going to be even a top 5 seed right now.
And also San Diego State, I was pumped to see. They deserve to be right there.
San Diego State's a really dang good basketball team, and we're going to talk about them a little bit more when we get back to our locks of the week, which we also have to put Nick officially on probation for that.
We're on turkey watch. We'll explain more.
Don't you worry about that.
Get there.
Other sidelines from the week, we've got to shout out Detroit Mercy.
Yeah. Haley, did you hear?
The Titans getting their first win of the season over IUPUI, and as Dusty mentioned, this is going to be one of my favorite moments of the year. The one-man court storm. If you have not seen it yet, go check it out on YouTube. Literally, one Detroit Mercy fan went out and was storm the court.
And I'm truly trying to hunt this guy down. So if anyone has any connections to Detroit, I would love.
We would love to talk to him.
I want to hug him more than anything, and then just have him come on the show.
It's one guy per win. That's why only one guy stormed the court.
Yeah. So their next win, 2 guys, they go storm the court.
I might be the second guy, honestly, at this point.
I love that. That's fantastic.
But shout out Mike Davis
yep.
and Mike Davis Jr. and Olajuwon's son, Abdullah, and keep the wins going. I mean, as we said last week, they could win the national title at this point. So.
Detroit basketball's back, baby.
They are.
They are back, whether there's the Pistons or the Titans.
Except for Jane Ivey.
I mean, is this the anti-Purdue podcast now?
I'm just throwing it out there.
Oh, my gosh. Did you guys watch the end of the Maryland-Illinois game yesterday?
No,
Well, I subjected myself to that nonsense. And I want to bring up this situation. This is another sideline from the week. So, 46 seconds to go. Maryland misses a three. And so Illinois gets the ball back. With 46 seconds left, Maryland is down 4. They chose to play it out and not foul. So Kevin Willard said, we're going to let Illinois take the clock down to 16, and we'll see if we can get a stop. I could not believe what I was watching, that a Division I men's college basketball coach in the Big Ten thought that was a good idea.
Especially
he had Valentine's dinner that night he had to get to.
Well, especially, a team trying to make the tournament. And it's not like it's the NBA. There's a good chance they'll miss the free throws. Like, there's no
Extend the game. So you are willing to be down 4 with 16 seconds left. That's saying you get a stop.
Right.
And they didn't. They ended up fouling with 18 seconds. I could not believe that. I was like, what is going on? Maryland, what are you doing?
That's Maryland's season in a nutshell. Just right there.
Pretty much, yeah.
I thought they're going to be so good, and they are not.
They are not. Jameer Young's averaging 20.
Gosh, it just does not
and
matter.
It just does not. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. We talked about Wisconsin. We talked about South Carolina. That was a terrible loss that Carolina had to LSU.
Not terrible, by the way.
They're not, and I'm surprised by that.
I would not want them to make the tournament for any team.
Uh-uh.
They get in like that playing game, which they'd probably lose. Let's just be real.
They're just a
But if they were like
mucking
the
up
13 seed and gets it, or 12 seed probably gets in, plays a 5. I would not want to play.
But
them.
they're 5-7 in the conference. Like, they're still decent.
They're hanging around.
Which is weird for us because usually the SEC is not good, but 5-7 this year is actually pretty tough.
And they've won at A&M, which, by the way, they're in a free fall.
A&M's in free fall,
So they
too.
won at A&M and now at South Carolina. So they've got some decent wins on the resume.
What did you do? Oh, you banged the table with your water
That
bottle.
was sick. It was like the atom bomb dropped. Oppenheimer, great movie.
I was going to mention LSU has a quad 4 loss to Nichols. Nichols it's 267 in the net.
At the end of the year, we should try to find out what the worst loss is.
That's a good idea.
Yeah,
that's a great idea. I love that. I want to talk real quick about the blueprint that Minnesota may have shown to beat Purdue. And I think Ohio State kind of implemented it as well. It's kind of two-pronged.
Plus, you're in the driver's seat.
Oh, this is a disaster.
On a set of 4 Firestone destination
What is
tree
playing?
No free ads.
No free.
Screw you, Firestone.
All right, we're gonna edit this part out.
Oh.
Yeah, so this is at the 50-minute mark. I'll go in and fix this. All right, there's something else I want to talk about.
And one of our
with Purdue.
student science members has fallen asleep. So
Yeah, Haley just...
Not excited about this podcast today. It's the 3rd episode of the trilogy, Haley. I don't know what to tell you. I believe that Minnesota showed a blueprint to beat Purdue, and it's kind of two-pronged. First and foremost, I think last year, teams were not afraid for Purdue to shoot the 3. Purdue was an okay three-point shooting team, borderline good. This year, I would argue that they are a great three-point shooting team. And Minnesota ran Purdue off the three-point line as much as they could, and they basically swiped at Zach Edey anytime he got the ball in the paint and was trying to force officials to make the calls. Funny that they started doing that. I would argue the Big Ten is one of the best scouted conferences in the country because today, on Sunday, Ohio State did the exact same thing, and sure enough, the Buckeyes were able to get the win. Is that the blueprint to beat
Real quick,
Purdue?
Can I get your rankings of scouted conferences? I would love to hear that sometime.
Big Ten is first. Mountain West is second.
Gotcha. The MEAC's probably last.
No, SWAC is third. SWAC is third. All the way down at the bottom, though, is the Pac-12. The Pac-12 is in last, and then just above the Pac-12 is FBS Independence.
Gotcha. I love that
Just
ranking.
above that.
just Chicago State.
Just Chicago State. They're barely ahead of the Pac-12 in terms of scouting. But you mentioned to me before we were going to pod about the blueprint I was mentioning to beating Purdue, and you think you have a response to that.
Okay, so first the Zach Edey things we were talking about, where teams are now trying to slap down on him. because I'm trying
basically forcing officials. They want to force officials. Bless you, by the way, to make the foul calls.
to make the call. So,
and I only saw it called twice in the game. I think. Against
so
Ohio
first of all, this is an easy adjustment, and I'm saying that as a 5'7" guy, not a 7-footer.
Are you 5'7"?
I actually no. I did go to the doctor this week. 5'6" and 4'12".
So you're not 5'7".
No, I'm not 5'7".
Okay.
5'6" and
We did
4'12"?
confirm that. Yeah. But I have lost 25
Isn't that
pounds.
Isn't that
since my last
1/3?
doctor's appointment.
Hold on, no, go back. 4/12 is 1/3.
I know. I think it was 5'12" is what they said. It was definitely less than 5'6" and a
Go
half.
back to your what were you mentioned? I'm sorry, I interrupted you
I'm not
in
the
your
same
fraction.
height. I said
Height
4'12".
matters, people.
I think it was 5'6" and 5'12". Whatever. I lost 25 pounds. That's what I'm focused on. That's
Congratulations.
awesome. Thank you. The Zach
I realized we
Edey
were a weight
thing
loss pod.
is so. I actually had a teammate at Kentucky who had an issue with the same thing. It was Marquette Williams, and he was the easiest person to strip.
Because he shows the ball to you before he goes up.
Thank you. Thank you
Yes.
for clarifying.
But when he turned, it was a simple adjustment that this is a compliment to Blake Gillespie. I'm sure he's the one who said it was just simply when you're making that movement where your shoulder's dropping, just turn your hand. And at the very least, the ref's going to hear the sound of that.
Yeah.
So I was saying to Robby.
But that's the thing is, I heard the sound on that multiple times in that CBS game, and it was not
But again,
called.
what I was saying to you earlier is like if that's better to happen now than a month from now. And
I thought that's what you were gonna say.
Now if you're Matt Painter, you should be saying to the rest of games, hey, we've been having this issue with Zach. Like, make sure you're watching. If you see this, like, please watch a little more. It's no different than when you tell the refs, hey, we're going to call timeout when this possession ends, or hey, we're going to draw this play. We're trying to draw a foul. Please watch for it. Like, he should be going every time and say, hey, this has been an issue, and we believe Zach's going to foul. Now make sure, again, teach him to turn his wrist a little more and tell the refs, hey, like, this is an ongoing issue.
So if Purdue makes a Final Four, they should thank Minnesota. Is that what you're saying?
Or me.
Or you.
And so here's the thing I want to bring up to you while we're talking about Purdue. My biggest thing that was on my mind watching that game, here's what I think about them and UConn, who, again, like I said, I think are the two best teams in the country.
Hot take.
Thank you.
Got it.
And I think this is Purdue's issue with being upset at the tournament all the time. Are either of them truly good? Okay, this goes back to like Cam Spencer, like being up 30 and just being very cocky, right? How are those teams when they're playing behind?
It's a good question.
I mean,
Purdue got down 12 and came back today, which and
Yes.
that's I am disappointed they won. If you asked me the panic meter 1 through 10, it's like about a 4 or 5. I'm not too concerned to be honest.
No, the only reason I
shouldn't be.
asked that was because the Purdue and PERIL was
the Purdue
so
and PERIL.
absurd.
I know, that
That's
was fun.
Fox. Gosh dang, you guys suck.
But if they do get down, let's just say 10 points. Let's say, okay, they won the first round this year. They're not going to lose to a 16 seed again. I hate when people say that. You're right. There's a 4% chance.
Like I mentioned last week, the Purdue message boards, they're concerned. They're running through the whole 16 seeds. They're concerned with playing against.
So they're the 1 seed, and they're playing. Let's make up
Detroit Mercy.
Let's say Texas Southern.
Texas A&M in the second round.
Oh, Texas. Okay.
And what's his name? Why am I spacing A&M stud?
Wade Taylor.
Thank you, Taylor. I was going to say 4 for some reason. Taylor goes off, and you're down 9.5, and Taylor has 19 points. Like, are you confident that that team is good enough to be like, okay, our guards can now lock him down, like we can come back? Like, that's my biggest issue of both Purdue and UConn is once you get down.
What's your response to that?
Yeah, because like I'll even say for Kentucky, very biased, but they have so much star power and so many NBA players. It's like they could be down 12-1. I'm not worried about it.
And that's for some reason, and I don't know why it was just it was like that when I was watching Purdue today, but there was some sense of calm when being down 12. It's like, we're good. We can do this.
Okay.
And sure enough, they did. And this was the first time they did this on the road this year. They've done it a couple times at home to Northwestern and Minnesota the last few weeks.
Yeah.
They got down. I mean, Minnesota was up almost double digits on them. Northwestern almost was as well, and they came back and won those
games.
games.
And you're at both those games.
Yeah, I was at both those games. What is happening? But I thought Purdue played with poise. I didn't think they defended all that great late in the game. They obviously they didn't do well shooting from 3, and Edey got a pretty rough whistle at times, I thought. So overall, I'm not concerned, but I think I agree with you that seeing how teams are playing Edey now, because they know they can't bang with him inside because they're going to call any kind of forearm into the back. Now they're trying to slap at him and try to do something different, which credit to Minnesota. It really worked because they were right there at the end to have a shot to win that game.
I think that's a short-term problem that can be fixed.
Because last year, it was Nebraska basically gave teams the blueprint to play Purdue, where they forced Edey baseline. They basically forced him into a trap every time on the drop step to the baseline, and everyone started doing that, and it was pretty effective. Then Purdue basically just started putting Edey right in the middle of the lane and just park it and just start going.
But you're right, though, that until you point out today, like they are swiping at the ball like
They're
crazy
going at
down
it
there.
almost every time.
It is like how like the Legion Boom Seahawks said, they're not going to throw a flag every play on us. It's kind of like the same thinking.
That's what it felt like watching that game today. So again, I'm not losing my mind over Purdue. It sucks they lost.
No, yeah, today would not. It does not change anything about Purdue.
No, and they're still a 1 seed. It's obviously this isn't a great loss to have. Now Ohio State's numbers aren't too bad, so it's not going to look like a really bad loss. But overall, yes, it's disappointing. Hopefully, this fires this team back up.
And we mentioned at the top, like you got to play Ohio State their first game after firing their coach. It's always a tricky spot to play.
It's a
someone
bad spot to be in, and they.
Especially if it's internal, the players are now fired up.
Yeah,
right.
And you could tell they were. When Purdue got up 8, they were looking great. Then when Edey got that second foul, that was a terrible foul call.
Oh, yeah.
It changed the course of that game, and that's when they started making that run. So, but again, shout out to Ohio State. They played very well, and they deserved to win that game. I want to switch gears real quick to Iowa State. I think they could be one of the scariest teams in the country right now. And last year, the problem with Iowa State is they were very, very good defensively, but they had no offense. This year, Tam and Lindsey can get buckets, and they've got a bunch of guys that can go score for them, and their defense is just as good as it was last year. I would not want to see Iowa State.
So I'm the one that added this to our board here because kind of my theme today is like teams we've not hit on. UConn's another one. I think Iowa State's the other one. Like
they
you
are
said,
flying under the radar, and I know Forrest, I hope he listens to this and hears us talking about the clones, but Iowa State is good.
Because what happened for them, they had a weird non-conference. Like they lost to Texas A&M. They really didn't have that marquee win at all. They may be like LSU, so regardless. But then conference play, they were awesome. They're 20-5, 9-3 in the conference, 1-7 of 8. They've beaten Kansas, Houston, won at TCU, at Texas, at Cincinnati. Like they are just
big wins.
They're just stacking these wins together. And what I like about them, they have 6 guys averaging between 9 and 14 points per game. So it is just balanced.
Say that again?
They have 6 guys averaging between 9 and 14 points per game.
Gosh.
So it's just a balanced attack. They don't rely on just one guy. I mean, again, this doesn't really matter in a tournament, but Hilton Magic's a real thing.
Oh, it's a real thing.
It's so hard to get in there. And I'm glad we're talking about it too, because obviously we'll talk about it next week. They play Houston Monday night at Houston, Iowa State at Houston.
It's gonna be a great game.
So it's just, I think they're one of the best teams in the country. Just kind of a spoiler, they're in my Final Four now. They're my first adjustment.
Hey, all right.
I'm all in on the Cyclones team. And shout out TJ Osselberger, by the way. They lost Hoiberg and other coaches. They thought, maybe they've not fallen off at all.
So that's a name I didn't mention that I should have mentioned for the Ohio State job, because he definitely should be in the running for that job for sure.
Yeah, he's done great. What are the smirks over here?
The first lady's the Potter, just giving us some
people
weird
don't know.
glares over here.
Again, I'm single for people who don't know, but Dusty and Robby are both happily married, I think, and both their wives are here.
Happily is really a state of mind. Not sure if I fully would believe that. Or did I say that out loud? My bad.
We can cut that part.
Yale, Cornell, Princeton is getting really fun in the Ivy League. Cornell beat Harvard on Friday. Yale won at Penn, and then Princeton won versus Brown. So all 3 of those teams it's going to be a neck and neck race at the top.
We'll
of the
have those
Ivy
notes
League.
right here. Yale and Cornell are both 8-1. Princeton 7-2, but Princeton has 2 road games this week. So that's
and Princeton brought back a lot of the players from last year's team. They lost a couple of them, one of which now plays in Northwestern, Ryan Langborg. But that's still a really good Princeton team. So keep an eye on them. San Diego State had a massive week, coming back and beating Colorado State, which we'll talk about that game here in a moment, and then beat New Mexico. And then one final thing before we move on to our Final Four, I do want to acknowledge the passing of one of the great head coaches in the history of college basketball. Lefty Driesell passed away on Friday at the age of 92. If you don't know who Lefty Driesell was, legendary coach at Maryland, eventually went on to James Madison, and then had some success at Georgia State, but one of the best coaches in the history of basketball.
I believe I saw it correctly. He's the only guy to lead 4 different schools to 100 wins. I think he's the only guy to do that. So he had
176 at Davidson, 348 at Maryland, 159 at James Madison, and 103 at Georgia State.
Insane. And a lot of those other Maryland mid-majors and smaller schools.
Right, yeah. That's Yeah, massively impressive. So definitely send our thoughts and prayers to Lefty Driesell and his family on his passing. But his legacy will remain steadfast throughout the years in college basketball.
I saw some bottom line. I didn't know what it meant. He's credited with creating March Madness.
Yeah, it's kind of his idea. Now, that was kind of that was like a Dave Gavitt. I think Lefty Driesell kind of were the ones
So
that kind
truly,
of pushed it
legacy
forward. Yes.
will live on and on and on and on.
100%, yes. Funny enough, so after he graduated, so he played at Duke. Lefty Driesell played at Duke. I don't know if everyone knew that.
Damn it.
I know, right? He started working.
Quiet.
He started working at the Ford Motor Company before he eventually took a job coaching high school basketball, and then eventually worked that into being a head coach in college.
That's crazy.
Isn't that crazy? That's nuts. Yeah, he pretty exceptional human being and pretty awesome person that's done amazing things in basketball. So his legacy, as we mentioned, it will definitely live on for ages, and he earned the reputation as the greatest program builder in the history of basketball.
That's a great tagline.
How awesome of a way it is to go out with that. So put that on your headstone and be proud of that one. So rest in peace to Lefty Driesell, and we definitely send our thoughts and prayers to his family during this difficult time. All right, we've switched gears to our final 4 and 1. I want to start with Nick because you've mentioned you've made a change. Let's hear it. Your final 4.
We have made an omission. Is that what it's called? Amendment? I think amendment.
Yes.
Amendment to the final 4. It'll still be Houston.
Amendum?
Amendum? Someone.
Amendum? Addendum.
I've made
I taught English. I should know that.
I've made a whatever that is to my final 4 and 1.
Okay.
I will switch out the Marquette Golden Eagles, who had won 8 straight basketball games. I'm still not giving up on them again.
How do they win 8 straight?
Because they're Marquette. They have Tower Kolick, Robby. That's why. But
I cannot believe that they were ranked. Like, I understand why they're ranked 4th, but
again, I know Dustin said it too. When teams just keep losing in the top 10, you kind of just do these
keep
cycles.
moving up.
Yeah, you just kind of just keep this cycle going. That being said, with Shaka's resume,
Marquette's out.
When the tournament, as much as I love Tower Kolick, it's not enough for me so I take him out. And the Cyclones are brewing. They're coming to the Final 4. Got me feeling like a cyclone. I don't know the next words.
We are not a music pod at all. By the way, don't say it. Who sings that?
Zero idea.
I'm disappointed.
Hurricane Chris?
No. That's a decent guess, but
Keep the tropical storm theme going. But other than that, everything's...
Whoa, we got to give the correct answer. Any other guesses?
None.
Okay, Baby Bash.
Oh, I actually think I did know that.
Did you?
I think I
Have
did.
our audience yell it out. I'm guessing Haley knew that. Oh, no.
No? Kelly? Cyclone? Who is it? Baby Bash? Is it because I said it? All right.
So, shout out Baby Bash. Shout out to him. But yes, I have
Definitely a listener.
Houston, Iowa State. Again, I always say there's one team just don't really like you throw in there. Illinois will just hold that spot.
Gosh.
I almost took out Colorado State, but they beat the heck out of Utah State on Saturday.
They
so I was like, I have to keep them in. And as always, FAU's the +1.
If you just forget about the second half of that Colorado State-San Diego State game, man, they look great.
I think someone on San Diego State outscored Colorado State's second half.
Yeah.
I believe that's a real fact.
I'm
a recency bias guy, Rob.
If I see Coleman Hawkins in a Final Four, I may throw myself off a bridge. You want to talk about guys that I do not like in college basketball? Coleman Hawkins is up there with Cam Spencer.
I guess I have to root for Illinois now.
Oh my gosh, no. By the way, Florida Atlantic got run by South Florida for a moment.
They cut the 4 late in the second half, but South Florida. That's probably to me more about South Florida. They were 8 of 13 from 3 at one point in that game. They're very good.
South Florida's a dang good team. That Youngblood dude that Dusty shouted out last week.
Miguel off the bench was on fire as well.
Yeah, he was 5 of 7 from 3. Yeah.
So
interesting Final Four. Mine doesn't change too much, except the fact that I'm taking South Carolina out. You're freaking out, guys. You can't lose to LSU at home.
Not feeling cocky anymore?
No, I'm not. So my Final Four is UConn, North Carolina, not Purdue, and Florida Atlantic.
Hoot hoot.
So basically, I only have 3 teams in my Final Four this week because I just said not Purdue. By the way, a team that I do want to shout out that's making a run that had a horrible start to the season but is starting to make a push. St. Mary's. Whoa.
Well, they have a big game tomorrow I was going to bring up.
Okay.
Which, by the way, awful start. They're 3-5 to start the year.
Horrific start to the season, and But again, I don't know if they are capable of making a Final Four run just because they've been in that spot before and they've just never really put it together. But I think they deserve at least a shout out from that run.
Have they made to the second weekend ever? I can't think of them. They do that. Omar Sahan.
Was the same hand team? Did they make it to a Sweet 16?
They upset someone in the round 32.
It wasn't Villanova, was it?
I think it was
Did
Nova.
they beat Villanova that year? Okay. I
It with
vaguely
Anthony
remember
Woods
that.
of all people.
Indiana State is freaking out this week, too. Come on, Sycamores. We were all in on you last week, and then you lose to Illinois State at home, a team, which I'm going to talk about them here a little bit later, but also then you just, put that up against losing out Southern Illinois. Like, put a postage stamp on it and mail it in, why don't you?
No, I'm really afraid now they may have lost their
I think they've lost their mojo.
Yeah.
And they have lost the
They seem like the
They-
epitome of a team that finally got the recognition and quit.
Or does that mean Josh Schertz is getting a job somewhere?
Or is it just now there's
Ohio State next week.
Granted, it should be mentioned they're like 8 of 38 from 3 on their game Tuesday night. So that was just one of those nights, but still, rough week.
We will mention that game a little bit more here in a moment. Dusty, your Final Four plus one.
My Final Four now is Purdue. Still,
Did they lose today?
Got embarrassed, some would say.
Embarrassed.
Yeah.
In peril. Fox says in peril.
I finally put UConn in. And then I have Tennessee. And
Tennessee.
I even though they lost yesterday, I put Butler. And my plus one is always another SEC team is what I was going with, even though I put Tennessee. And I put Kentucky as who I think is the best team in the SEC right now. Back on it.
Can Kentucky win the SEC? But
Bama
is it too far?
If they can beat Bama if they go 2-0, we can beat Bama maybe. But Bama, I think only has
There's
one
6 games
or 2
left.
Okay.
Yeah, 6 games left.
Probably going to go 5-1 and get some help.
That's doable.
They have to beat Bama and probably Tennessee again.
Okay.
Because if Tennessee sweeps them, I'm not sure.
I mean, it'd be awesome if their final game on Saturday, for those who don't know, is Kentucky at Tennessee.
If they can I just want a
Huge.
top 4 seed in SEC. I just want the double bye. That's all I really want.
Yeah, you don't want to play on Thursday. That's in Nashville. That's never fun as a fan.
And we'll be boots on the ground there for if people didn't start our first podcast.
That's right.
We go Dust go SEC tournament every year, so I'm excited to be there.
Excited to get that going. As I mentioned, my Final Four was UConn, North Carolina, not Purdue, and Florida Atlantic, and then St. Mary's. So threw that all in the. Even though Florida Atlantic lost, again, I still think that they're going to use kind of that energy of playing against teams that have reached their level to use that in the
Purdue
tournament.
can be a dangerous team.
Not Purdue, right? Watch out for not Purdue. They're going to be good this year. All right, far from mid this week. Nick, I'm starting with you because you have one of my favorite teams.
Real quick, this is not my far from mid. You mentioned Purdue, though. Shout, Fairleigh Dickinson got stuck in an elevator this week.
They did.
And they
forgot to mention that.
Yeah, they got but they got out, so shout the fire marshals. But Robby, for people who listened last week, Vermont was my far from mid team. Just shouting a good mid-major program.
Cats.
This week is kind of the same. The Colgate Raiders in the Patriot Conference.
Colgate.
So
Great toothpaste, too.
great. I'm a Crest guy myself, personally, but yeah, far from mid.
See, that's why they never do well in the tournaments because you don't believe in them. You take Crest over Colgate. That's why. If you would believe in them, they've been close to winning some games in the tournament. They've been very close.
They've not broken through yet. Crestwood.
Maybe this is it.
But yeah, they are 19-8 overall, 13-1 in the conference. They have 10 guys that play double-digit minutes, so they just kind of just like throw everything at you. All that being said, though, they've been so dominant Patriot. I didn't realize this. They've gone to 4 straight tournaments. They've won the regular season and conference tournament each of the past 4 years. 2020, they were 14-4 in the conference. Probably will have gone that year. So anytime the tournament's been eligible the last 4 years, 4 times, they've made it. Okay, and look at this. In the Patriots since 2021, so this will be the 4th season, they are 57-4 in the Patriot Conference. 57-4. So they are just running ramshack. And for people who don't know, for us college basketball nerds, that was a conference Bucknell ran for long.
The Patriot League is not a bad league by any means.
Not at all. So yeah, they're just taking names in that one. 57-4 last 4 years. Gonna win again probably. So shout Colgate. Just want to give them a shout.
Love it. Mm-hmm. I would. So if they wouldn't have played Texas in the first round last year,
Agreed.
I think that they could have had a chance at winning in the first
Awful
round.
matchup for them.
Bad matchup. And ended up Princeton was the 15. They ended up winning. So keep an eye on Colgate. Maybe a 15 down the road they could win. Dusty, you're far from mid team.
So, per usual, I have a team, and I have to give my conference updates. My team is, again, I mentioned having a man crush on the San Francisco Dons. for Bill Russell.
Uh-huh.
They have a huge game, I mentioned, against St. Mary's tomorrow night, 11 o'clock.
Big Monday night game, yeah.
Yep. San Francisco versus St. Mary's. So San Fran is my team. Let's see where they are next week. Conference updates real quick. We mentioned the Ivy League. I brought up the MEAC last week.
Yep.
It is getting hot and heavy there.
Oh.
We have Norfolk State is 6-2, but then Morgan State, NC Central, and Howard all 5-3, all within the game. Keep an eye on that. The new conferences to look at is one is the Ohio Valley. We have Morehead State. Make the jokes that you want. They're 11-3 in first place.
Yeah, we know
And
Nick will.
A half game back right now. You have Arkansas, Little Rock, UT Martin, and Western Illinois are all 10-3.
We don't talk about Little Rock on this pod.
There's so many teams.
Big Rock. Now,
It's only like 5.
and
but yes.
the other conference I want to bring up is the Northeast Conference, as we're getting hot and heavy. Remember,
Oh, I love the Northeast.
a few weeks away. Merrimack is
I love the Northeast
11-2
last
and
year.
winning it. Central Connecticut State is 9-3.
But can Merrimack make the tournament this year?
See, I don't know because the stuff I was doing wasn't showing when it said
Oh, no.
games in the Northeast. So I don't. They may not even play in the conference tournament, so I'll let our stats department figure that out. But
Well, they played in the conference tournament last year and won it. For people who don't remember, Fairleigh
Yeah.
Dickinson lost to them in their conference final.
Merrimack can make the tournament this year.
And then the teams at 7-5. So again, CCSU's 9-3. Then at 7-5, we have good old Fairleigh Dickinson, who 2 weeks ago I said was horrible. They've won out since then.
I agree. They're horrible.
Sacred Heart and Lemoyne. I'm guessing Lemoyne cannot qualify, but they're all 7-5. Now the team to watch during all this is Sacred Heart.
The team to watch.
This week plays both Fairleigh Dickinson
No one
and Central Connecticut State, so they could make some noises.
Can I just mention that no one has ever uttered the phrase "the team to watch"? Sacred Hearts.
Well, this is the week to watch them.
Man, if there cannot be another pod anywhere in the entire world that is getting in on mid-major conferences than this one right here.
Watch out this week for Sacred
Watch out
Heart.
for the
And
pioneers of
just
Sacred
for those who are
Hearts.
bored, Thursday and Saturday, those 2 games.
Okay.
Unreal. All right, my far from mid team, I got to shout out Illinois State. As much as I love Indiana State, Illinois State going on the road and winning in Terre Haute against Indiana State, playing their first game since they had been ranked since 1979 with Larry Bird. Big deal.
Heard of him?
Probably, yeah. The Redbirds had lost 4 straight going into that game and 5 of 7. They had a true freshman on their team by the name of Johnny Kinsinger, who scored 31 points in that game. Now, you may be like, 31 points? Okay, that's cool. He was coming into that game averaging 7.
Heck yes.
And his high-scoring game for the season was 13.
Heck
He doubled that number in the biggest way possible. So, shout out to Illinois State and Johnny Kinsinger with that big win. Also, I was going to shout out Samford because the Bulldogs had been rolling 23-3 overall until they ran into mighty Greg Gary's Mercer Bears yesterday. And Mercer got the win.
No mercy.
No mercy from Mercer. Samford is now 23-4, but the Bulldogs, I'm going to at least mention this. They have 4 players averaging 10 or more. All 4 of those players shoot better than 42% from 3, which is scary. Since losing to Purdue and VCU at the start of the season, which, by the way, Purdue beat them by 53 in the first game of the season, which is still shocking. They were 23-1 going into yesterday's game, and they were 58 in the net. From a team coming from the SoCon, crazy impressive. If you want to pick a team to watch out for in the tournament, if they make it, Samford, remember, we saw Furman win last year in the tournament. That's a team from the SoCon. Keep an eye on Samford. They have the makeup of a team that could possibly make some noise this year in the tournament.
And shout out, Antonio Reeves went to Illinois State.
He sure did.
Basketball's
almost went back too, but decided to stay.
Basketball's all about putting the ball in the hoop. It's like how badminton's about getting the shuttlecock over the net. And Antonio Reeves can put the ball in the hoop as good as anyone.
There you go. He said it. Mm-hmm. All right. Very well. We move on to what to watch for. It is a big week once again. Starting off Monday night, I mean, you mentioned your big Monday night game, St. Mary's in San Francisco, but I got to shout out Iowa State at Houston coming up on Monday night. That is a massive game. Virginia's at Virginia Tech. The Cavaliers won a rock fight on Saturday, and they kept that game in under 50, but they won.
Did I see something like a 1 of 10 at the free throw line or something like that?
Like that, yeah, I believe
insane.
so. We got some big SWAC games. Southern's at Texas Southern, and Bethune-Cookman's at Jackson State. All 4 of those teams, I believe, are in the top 4 in the SWAC. So those are big ones. And then North Carolina Central at Norfolk State. That's for first place in the conference. That's coming up Monday night as well. Tuesday games look pretty nice. Butler's at Villanova. UConn goes to Creighton. That could be spicy and could be interesting. Baylor goes to BYU. BYU had a bad loss yesterday. TCU's at Texas Tech. San Diego State's at Utah State. Interesting. So that's a fun one as well. Coming up on Wednesday, big one in the SoCon. Western Carolina is at UNC Greensboro. Florida's at Alabama. If Florida better take that game seriously. Alabama better take that game seriously because Florida's going to come in hot.
They've been on fire. They won at Georgia again on Saturday.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
Am I wrong? I think they've won 8 of 9.
That sounds right.
Or something
yeah.
like that.
Have they really? Wow. That's crazy. By the way, that San Francisco St. Mary's game is Tuesday night.
Oh, Tuesday.
Tuesday
Sorry.
night at 11, but that game is on ESPN too. Other Wednesday games, we got JMU at Marshall, Charlotte's at Memphis. Memphis is squarely on the bubble right now. They need to beat Charlotte to continue to have that run. Obviously, Kentucky's at LSU.
Horrifying game.
That's very scary. We have the Egg Bowl in hoops. Ole Miss is at Mississippi State. Colorado State goes to New Mexico. That's going to be a fun one in the Mountain West. Those games are on Wednesday.
That conference delivers every single week.
It's basically the Big 12 for Western teams.
It really is.
Because there's always so many good games every single night out. Thursday, Rutgers is at Purdue. Boilermakers are going to have to bounce back against a team that's had their number in the past. Cleveland State's at Northern Kentucky. Big one in the WAC. Grand Canyon's at Tarleton State. Can the Lopes keep the winning ways going? That's a big one. Morehead State's at Western Illinois. Washington State goes to Arizona. Friday, good rivalry game in Ohio. Toledo's at Bowling Green. Battle of I-75. Yale goes to Cornell on Friday. That's going to be a tasty matchup. And then a big one in the MAC. Fairfield's at Quinnipiac. And then Saturday, as we meant, next Saturday, big slate of games. Houston's at Baylor. You already know about Alabama's going to be at Kentucky. We'll have boots on the ground for that one. Mm-hmm. Should be a fun one. North Carolina's at Virginia. South Carolina's at Ole Miss. American goes to Colgate. See if the Raiders can keep their winning ways going there.
With the theme of this podcast, you're so going to lose that game.
Maybe they will. Maybe the one that if you just absolutely hate yourself, you're going to flip over to CBS Sports Network and watch Georgetown at DePaul. Oh, it's going to be such a bad game.
That's offensive to CBS Sports Network for someone who loves that network.
It's a Big East game, so it's got to be on the network, right?
It was so funny. Ohio State obviously fired their coach, and there's the first Power 6 job to be open, and all the replies are like, DePaul's open too. And I was like, oh yeah.
And then next Sunday, Purdue has to go to Michigan. I don't feel good about that game at all. Florida Atlantic has to go to Memphis. Yeesh. And then really big one on the horizon, Youngstown State is at Green Bay. So a lot of really good games coming up in these next few days. That's our what to watch for. We move on to our lock of the week. Nick, you have some explaining to do. What has happened, and why did you think that Kansas was going to do well at Texas Tech?
All right, just for the record, I made that bet last Sunday, and I know McCullough was not going to play, and Dwan Harris played on 1 foot. That was not a... Kansas has 4 guys to begin with. They were down to 2.5 guys because of that. Not good at all.
Bill Self got ejected for the first time in his career.
Bill Self got ejected. It was a Bill Self first time at Kansas.
First time.
That was his first time, I believe.
Okay.
At Kansas. Someone
at Kansas, yes, because he got ejected at Illinois.
I believe he did. Yeah. Frequency got slaughtered at Texas Tech. Mm-hmm. Again, it was a Bill Self bet, and boy, did I not bet on him getting ejected from the basketball game in Lubbock.
A real selfish bet on your
A real selfish bet on me. Bad all around. And then so Robby, Dusty, and I, we have a group chat. They're talking about punishing me, and I want to say, I want punishment to be fun, but I thought 2 seemed a little extensive or a little harsh. I thought I
You're
guess
just not tough enough.
I'm not.
That's really what it is.
I am not built different. Okay, I'm just not. So, but I decided, it's kind of like a carrot for all of us. We're gonna think of punishment, by the way. For whoever finishes last of us 3, we'll figure out something. If I lose a third straight bet, that's a turkey. And bowling, I'll dress like a turkey for our next podcast. I'll go to. What's that store?
Spirit Halloween?
Halloween.
Does that still exist?
Is it Party City? Is that what it's called?
Party City, yeah.
That was called. I'll find a turkey outfit. I'll dress like a turkey. But
and we can eat turkey though.
I can eat turkey, but my bet wins though. Your boy's okay.
Oh,
My
yeah,
boy's
you're back on track.
My
Yeah.
back's
the streak's over, and you're back on track.
I'm actually hoping I don't go
You're back to
streaking.
your first win since this.
Or we could do
podcast started.
that'd be a streak. I can just go nude for the next pod. So I'll do either one for you guys.
That's not. No one wants that. Like that's a punishment for us, not for you.
Well, that'd have to be a relationship update too.
That too. All right. So Nick, give us your lock of the week. Well, give us your fade of the week. No, I believe in you. You're going to get this one done this week. Come on.
I've learned from my gambling app. I'm not good
Your
at
transgressions?
This. Yeah, thank you guys for listening. By the way, I'm not a college basketball expert, evidently. So I basically threw not a dart at the board. I picked the grossest game possible. I like NC State versus Syracuse on Tuesday night to cover the spread.
NC State to cover over Syracuse.
At NC State.
At NC State. On what day is that?
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
I just figured, no, what?
That's gross.
I don't like watching Syracuse. They play like 5.5 guys. They have no bench. Weird game at NC. I don't know what the spread is because they don't get the spread yet. Again, I have bets I like better, but clearly my gut's not working, or my head's not working, so I'm just going with my gut. NC State.
So
the Turkey Bowl.
Okay, if you get this one wrong, you have to show up in a turkey. I think if you get a fourth one wrong, you should have to buy a plane ticket and go attend the ugliest game of that
we
week.
can find.
That we can find.
I just go to
yes.
IPY that week.
You could just go to
Whoever they're
IPY.
playing.
Yes. I think that's a great idea. That's going to be the four
my
bangers.
God.
Okay, so NC State has to cover against Syracuse at home. Oh my God!
Come on, Kevin Keats.
Oh, they don't have Terquavion Smith anymore. He can't bail you out.
I know.
But they do have Jaden Taylor, former Perry Meridian star.
I kind of like their team. It just is. I'm just going gross this week. Morehead State.
Unreal. Okay. All right. We'll see if NC State can cover. Dusty, your lock of the week. Which, by the way, Dusty is 2-0. Got a great one over at McNeese State. They were covering within the first 10 minutes of that game over Houston Christian. I think they won that game by 50. So, Cowboys saddled up for Dusty. Dusty, give me your lock of the week.
I am changing mine last minute.
Oh, wow. An audible. Okay.
Yes. Do I give the first take that I'm going off of? So people are putting their winnings on me.
Do whatever you want.
Do whatever you want.
I was going to
your
take
pod. It's
IU.
D1 and done.
Yeah, I was going to take IU over Nebraska. Nebraska is winless in Big Ten play on the road and undefeated at home. The game's in Bloomington Wednesday. But as we're doing this, I'm watching IU down 11
They're
right now
losing to Northwestern.
at
Speaking
home.
of my awful gambling, I hammered IU before this game.
Yeah,
It's getting smoked.
See, the problem is that it's IU, but it looks like they're Rutgers with those uniforms, so I can't tell the difference if it's Rutgers or IU playing at home. I'm sure that's not really much of a difference. But okay, so IU at home against Nebraska.
Yeah. So
what game's that? What day's that game?
Wednesday.
That was going to be his pick.
Yeah.
Oh, that was going to.
Yeah, that's going to be. I'm off that now.
Okay, you're off it now.
So
okay.
now it's Friday, a little Friday night fever, if you will. I'm going to take, with the spread, Iona at Ryder.
Ooh. Tobin.
You don't believe in the Bronx?
I do not. I've been to their campus. Pretty underwhelming.
Yes, you have. Yes, you have. That's another story you're going to have to save for another
pretty
time.
boring.
Yeah. So old Tobin coming from Fairleigh Dickinson taking over for Rick Pitino at Iona and the Gales.
Yep.
So you say spread Iona over Ryder.
Correct.
Okay.
And I would guess that spread's going to be in the 2 range. So,
Okay. That's doable.
So +2 range.
I'd say wait, Ryder would be favored over Iona?
See, that's where I'm not sure. It's
I
going to
don't
be
know.
2 one way or the other.
Either way,
but
you say Iona.
take the points with Iona.
Okay.
Iona's going to win by 9. There you go. There's my spread.
So,
If Iona doesn't cover, I owe ya.
great. I was getting texted for about half an hour about my San Diego State pick over Colorado State because I was hammer it with confidence. San Diego State doesn't lose at home, and there's no way Colorado State's going to win this game. Well, Colorado State led by double digits at halftime, and so I went to bed, turned my phone off, I can't deal with this. My mind can't handle it. And San Diego State and Jaden Ledee got busy in the second half and won that game by double digits. So
I believe he outscored Colorado State.
he
second
sure
half.
did. So your boy is now 3-0 on locks. This lock this week,
It's our third podcast.
because I did two. I did Auburn
This is
spread
stupid.
and money line. So I got to win it. Can you let me win at something?
Yeah.
I just watched my team in peril lose because Fox thinks it's time to worry.
Don't you picture too when Robby says someone was texting me all night about a pick that's Robby texting himself on two different phones.
That would definitely be something I would do.
You have 2 phones. Does your wife know about that?
You know the Kevin Gates song?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's actually about me.
She's not even paying
She's
attention.
not even paying attention. Thank goodness.
She's
Hi, how's it going? All right, my lock of the week. I am so excited about this one because I have a stat for this one that's going to blow your freaking minds. Minnesota spread at home against Ohio State coming up on Wednesday. I am super excited about this one. Now, Minnesota is playing Rutgers probably right now as you're listening to it. I'm just going to go ahead and assume that they're going to be fine. Maybe they won't be. I don't know. Maybe not. By the way, the Minnesota game is on Thursday at 8 p.m. So they play Ohio State at home on Thursday, 8 p.m. Minnesota is 21-3 against the spread this year. 21-3. So they have covered in 80% of the game, 87% of the games they played. That includes that Purdue game where Purdue was an 18.5-point favorite, and they covered with ease.
They're up, 7 at halftime?
Mm-hmm. Ended up losing by 8. Was it 8? 8, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, 84-76. So Minnesota against the spread. I don't know what the spread's going to be, but the fact that they continue to do well against the spread, and Ohio State's coming off that big emotional win over Purdue. Now they got to do it again in a place that they've struggled with in the past at the Barn. Lock it in for Minnesota. They're going to get whatever the spread is. Be confident. Ben Johnson for Coach of the Year, and the Gophers will get it done against the Buckeyes.
Oh, they're like a mini South Carolina. Like they were awful last year, but they've made a massive jump in year
It's
two.
shocking how good they are this year. Like they are really good, and they were terrible last year, but they've played really well this year. So there's our locks of the week. We will have those out on social media as well as we go throughout the week. Now we move on to one of our favorite parts of the show. It's our viewer questions, and we got 3 for this week. And a couple really good ones. So we're going to start off first. Now, this is more of a question for me, but you guys can please obviously dive in. Now, if you want to send us your questions, you can find us on social media, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at D1AndDonePod. So our good friend Jack Carney wants us to rank the following Purdue IU moments in the Painter era. John Octius baptizing the masses, Carson Edwards, I'm not playing dunk, the Matt Harms tip-in, the long-awaited Zach Edey banked-in 3, and the Chris Kramer DJ White fight from back in the late 2000s. I'm just going to pick out my favorite from that one, and it's probably going to be the Matt Harms tip-in, and that may be shocking to some people. But in that game, Matt Harms, that tip-in, got the win for Purdue, 48-46 in that game. And maybe my favorite part, it's 2 parts, the reason why it's my favorite. First off, it was definitely an over-the-back on Matt Harms on that tip-in. They didn't call it. I think it was on Jamarcus Ellis, who was trying to box him out, and Matt Harms just used his ridiculously long arms to tip it in and get the game-winning bucket. My second thing is there are these 2 IU fans sitting front row on the court, and as he tips it in and scores, they jump up. What? Where's the foul call? And they start berating the officials, and it gave me so much joy and excitement to see those IU fans be upset and disappointed that their team lost on a call that was probably missed. So I'm probably going to take that one as my favorite moment, but all of those are great moments, Jack, and the Carson Edwards dunk is awesome. John Octius was at the Purdue-Minnesota game on Thursday night, which was really cool. That banked-in 3 is still incredible. So a lot of great moments for the Boilermakers against IU.
The John Octius one would be number 1 for me. Mm-hmm. He did just destroy that poor individual.
If that play would have happened in 2024, there would have been John the Baptist shirts throughout the student section at the paint crew. So that's definitely one of my favorite moments. But obviously, a lot of great moments from the Purdue-IU rivalry. If you turn the script, probably IU's best moment was when they rushed the court against beating Purdue last year, which, Blue Bloods always rush the court after beating their rivals.
Absolutely.
That's what they do. Can you sense the sarcasm in my voice by saying that?
But to be fair, IU, they never rush the court, so that was just a one-off.
Oh, right. They never do that.
They never do that.
No.
That was a complete one-off.
That's not something they do.
Mm-mm.
Let's move on to our second question. And this is a question that I actually just stumbled upon online.
No. Can I answer Jack real quick?
Sure.
I want him to break down. I meant to bring this up. He needs to look at the disputed 1901 game between Purdue and IU and get back to us. The IU newspaper had something to do with the in conclusion on how an IU team that went 1-3 that year.
You're talking about basketball?
Yes. So, Jack, when you listen to this, look that up. The disputed 1901 game.
Okay.
We will get to the bottom of this.
All right. We're going to find out about that one.
My favorite moment, pretty real quick, is Chris Kramer hitting the shot on his knees. You know what I'm talking about? That's my first Purdue memory.
That was against Arizona in the NCAA tournament.
Huh. Oh, that remembers the tournament game.
Mm-hmm. And then Purdue, the next round, played Florida.
Yeah.
And was the only team that really kept up with Florida in that tournament.
Well, I would say that, Butler, too.
Butler did, too.
There's
You're
only
right.
two
Yes.
Indiana schools. It was
Right.
Purdue and Butler both hung in Florida.
Very
And-
true.
Jackson State did not.
No.
No, they did not. My second question that we got, and again, I got this online, but I wanted to pass this along to all of you. What would it take for you to go streaking at the Super Bowl? Because you're going to get arrested. You're going to be charged. You're going to get booked. You're going to get processed. You're probably going to have a trial. You may go to jail. What would it take for you to actually go streaking? Because it seems like we see a streaker at every Super Bowl. We saw it at last Super Bowl, which it was actually two of them. I don't know if you saw. It was not just one, but two. But what would it take?
First off, if you go streaking, not even be like, haha, you have to go nude. Like, if you're going to do it, let's go full. Like, if you're going to do it,
You're doing it. You're doing it big. You're doing it for real. Yeah.
We're doing this, okay? So there's no chance if I'm doing it, I'm doing it. That being said,
Well, hold on. Ladies, what's your thoughts?
We're not listening.
How much to go streaking at the Super Bowl?
How much what?
How much to go streaking at the Super Bowl?
yeah, screw us. Let's get their answers.
Yeah.
Like money-wise?
What would it take? What would it
whatever
take?
you think is monetary value.
Going to jail, right? One of us to do it?
You're,
Anybody.
no, yeah, you,
I bet it
yourself.
wouldn't be as bad for a
No
woman.
amount of money would make me do that.
No,
No amount of money. So $10 million and you're not going streaking.
Absolutely.
Bezos offers you $1 billion. You're not doing it?
I would. I don't want his money. I would do.
Okay, I'm trying to think. Warren Buffett, $1 billion.
If you got a date with Jordan Spieth, would you do it?
You could come on the
just
Be
say
It
yes
One
on
Done podcast if you did it.
Technically already on it.
And cut that
No,
part.
this is in an unofficial capacity, so this doesn't count.
Oh, we might be cut out.
I'd do it for 10K.
I was going to say probably like 10 grand.
Yeah.
I would probably do it, honestly.
Yeah, I would too.
Now, you also have to take into account, you got to cover attorney fees and things like that.
I think the biggest
But
person
the
I can
story,
find for
though,
your
you
job,
streaked at the
The
Super Bowl.
story of that happening, yes.
You try and dap up Mahomes on the field and stuff.
Something like that, yeah. But also, I'm probably losing my job, and I'm probably
I know,
not
that's what I'm saying.
I'm probably
There's
not
more
going to get
to it.
another job. So 10, like initially on the surface, 10K probably. But I'm thinking probably at least 250. Like it's got to be a big number because I got to set myself up.
But honestly, though,
We're gonna start a
you probably lose your
GoFundMe to
job.
start raising money to get Robby the streak at the Super Bowl next year.
But,
Not me, no.
but like in the day and age of like, you could probably have some like, you could be on some like, you'd be like famous in some sort of way, right? You could maybe be like reality
Yeah.
TV and stuff like that. Do some podcasts.
I'm sure you could parlay it into something, but yeah. Our last question, and this is kind of playing off of what we had last week, and this is from our pal Mitch Miller. What do you think would be the easiest for a person off the street to do? Rush for a single yard in the NFL, score a point in the NBA, or be the goaltender in the NHL? That's because since the NHL has had. Can I finish the question?
Can Robby finish, Kelly?
Since the
Cut that part.
NHL has had a decent amount of history in civilians playing in games because the goalies get hurt, I still say hitting in baseball is harder than all of those, but out of those three, thanks. I completely agree, Mitch. Yes.
I'm going to answer quickly. It's getting 1 yard rushing because to me that you're relying on the offensive line, the quarterback, the everything else.
The question is easiest.
The easiest, yes.
I think getting 1 yard because all you have to do is run straight, not fumble the ball, and hope that there's just an inch
Just get
of
a
line.
push forward,
Yeah.
and you can find a way to get a yard.
Because
Yeah.
the other ones, you have to actually perform. And
I agree.
again, getting 1 yard is not easy at all
No.
whatsoever. But if you're going to put with that, I think that's the easiest one to get because you're other people who are professionals are going to help.
That's in the moment in a game.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
I would agree.
The
with that.
premise of this is like if I stepped on an NBA court, they'd probably would double someone else, right, and leave me open. Like
Probably.
the premise of this is like they are somewhat guarding you, or like the defense in football is trying to tackle you, right? Like I think it's basketball. I think still, because I just think that closing speed in football is just they're so fast. And
I don't
we're
know.
not.
I'm with you.
Yeah,
Trust
yeah,
me. I'm not like confident what I'm
Neither-
saying.
I'm not
I'm
confident either.
imagining an offensive line being like, let's get this little guy, a yard.
Right.
Right. Like we just
You
we
might be
got to
right,
bust our
actually.
butts off for one play to expand this opening.
Yeah.
You might.
And
Because
as long as
there's
you get
only
to line
1
of
yard.
scrimmage, just dive, and you're probably gonna have a concussion, but enjoy it. Right. Just get there. That's all you got.
You just need a yard.
Yes.
What do you think?
I'm probably doing the yard as well, but I mean, I can get buckets, so just put me out there and I'm going to get
By the way, it's definitely NHL just for fear factor. You would be so freaking scared of that puck. I could not imagine anyone would be like. Again, hockey might be easiest because it could hit you in the chest. You could get lucky.
You got enough padding on you. You'll be okay. But again,
right, you're probably okay, but mentally you are.
Oh yeah,
mortified.
I can't really. I'm not a great ice skater to begin with, so that's also something else you have to consider too.
All right, I'm gonna up this question real quick. Would you rather have to be a hockey goalie on one breakaway with no pads, or
no pads,
or try to get that 1 yard with no pads?
1 yard because you can dive.
I'm gonna dive. Yeah, I'm gonna dive. I was thinking too. I was probably. I'm gonna take
you're
the yard.
for sure going head to head against.
I'm just gonna dive.
Dominican Sue with his helmet on.
So basically, here's so it's death. That's what's on the line. Is you have to get a yard or you die. You have to stop the puck or you die.
There's a public execution. How do you want to go out?
How scary! Someone coming like on a fast break.
Austin Matthews coming down at you.
Coming at you, and you're. I mean, that's when you just give up, turn around.
I would go the 1 yard. Surely, I mean, put me behind a good offensive line that can actually get a push.
But I was saying, like, by basketball, you could just like if the ball just bounced to you by the rim, you just throw it up real quick. Or like you just like they're not paying attention to you on defense. You just kind of leak to the short corner.
The image of Nick like delicately just be on the best and just like.
I just think those closing speeds, those linebacker like Dre Greenlaw coming at you. Like, could you get that?
I would be so scared. I'd be so scared. Anyway, that's a great question.
It is.
Thank you, Mitch, for that question. And again, please submit your questions on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or wherever you can find us. By the way, we are now on YouTube, so you can find all of our episodes on YouTube, where you can listen to us there as well. Before we wrap up the show, it's time to gather around the campfire and listen to another great Dusty Mills college basketball story. And I was promised that Dusty brought a good story to share for the masses today.
I was telling this one to my wife, actually. So sorry you're hearing this again, Haley. But in honor of Kentucky winning at Auburn yesterday, my 1 year at Kentucky, we played at Auburn. Auburn was very bad that year. I think we won by one of our few big victories. Won by probably 15 or 20. But as you imagine, during warm-ups before the game, I was getting mocked because Auburn still had a decent student section. It's probably
they've always had like a pretty spicy student section.
It was probably 6-7 rows deep, which is pretty good. And they were very loud, very obnoxious. And I got taunted a lot because I'm this short white guy who, was wearing flamboyant high socks, whatnot.
Why did you wear those high socks?
Remember the stories, they gave me them day one and they went above my calves because they thought they were going to be crew socks like everyone else, and then finally it just owned it and
he just went for it.
Yeah, it just went from there. Right. So I'm getting mocked a ton during warm-up. So I finally at one point I'm like just stretching as like the important players are shooting around and whatnot, and the guy who was clearly running the student section just kept saying my name, and so I kind of walked over to him as I'm like stretching my hamstrings. I was like, "What's up, man?" And he basically admitted that he's trying to get in my head. And I was like, why do you care about me? Like, I'm not
playing.
I'm not going to be doing anything.
I'm not going to have an impact on this game. What are you doing?
So I wish I knew this guy's name. So if you ever remember the story, Auburn fan, and you remember me, him and I ended up hitting it off for about 10 minutes. And had just a great conversation. And so what happened was the entire Auburn student section, he went and told all of his buddies, like, this is actually like a really fun guy to talk to.
I love that.
So the entire second half, as we're beating Auburn, every dead ball, the Auburn student section is chanting, "We want Dusty." Just like
that's amazing.
Like under 12 timeout, we're in a huddle. Gillespie's giving out the plays, and you can just hear, "We want Dusty." It's not Rupp Arena. We're at Auburn.
Right, you're at Auburn
but just
Arena.
A bunch of, for all I know, inebriated college kids just chanting that. Yeah. And
did you know this story?
No.
I love that. This is great. This is why we're doing the podcast right here. Is you have all these stories that we have not heard before. Well, you also could just be making this stuff up, and we have no idea.
It's like
that's what I actually do all week because I'm trying to think of like what can I fantasize.
I love this. It's like a grandfather's going to die soon, so we're just getting all the stories now.
We're getting
out on record too to play for my kids one day.
Fantastic. Well, guys, the trilogy is complete. We are 3 episodes into the D1 and Done pod. Any last news and notes, shout outs, mentions that I may have misplaced or
3
forgotten over this time?
And still no wins from Nick. That's what I have.
You got to get the ball in the hoop, and you got to get the shuttlecock over the net.
Please, for the love of God, NC State, please win. Please win.
Or else I'm going to gobble.
Do not do this to Nick. Again, I still maintain the 4th loss, we pick out a terrible college basketball game you have to go to, and you got to fly there and do it on your own dime. I
On
love
my
that.
own dime?
On your.
I'm about to quit.
We're not paying you. No, I
might quit.
I will pitch in to help.
Please, NC State. Please, NC State.
I do have one final thing to say. One thing I wanted to get to when we didn't is we were talking about the All-Star game being here. It made me think of at some point on this show, I think it'd be fun to tell stories about how amazing high school and college basketball actually is in Indiana.
Yeah.
So I want our viewers to know, if you ever get bored, obviously the movie Hoosiers is based on a high school called Milan here in Indiana. Mm-hmm. And for Robby's bachelor party, we actually played open gym at the high school, which is called Knightstown, in their gym. So if you ever want to look that up, that's just a cool factoid of something, and that's where they filmed Hoosiers. So
Definitely one like a bucket list moment right there.
Yes, it was
that
very cool.
is still one of my favorite things that you guys ever did for me. So thank you for that. Had a lot of fun there. All right, that does it for episode 3 of the D1 and Done Pod. We will be back for episode 4 next Sunday. Until then, we hope you enjoy the great sounds of Dusty's Gatorade water bottle and the fact that we aren't going anywhere. We're coming back, and go Wolfpack, baby.
Go Pack, go.
Go Pack, go. We'll see you next week.